So we're going to jump to 2025. So 2 years, fast forward 2 years, and we're going to do 2025. So 2025 is completely different destinations. It's Puerto Galera, where you guys have been before, but obviously with Atlantis, which is a different resort located in a different place than where you were in the past. And then again, a week on the boat in Tubbataha Reef. So this is Puerto Galera. This is actually the area called Sabang Beach, which is where all the diving is. Where you guys stayed last time, it was around here, where the village is. So it's a bit further. So it took you, I think, 20, 25 minutes to get to the dive site. So we're here. And these are the dive sites right here. It looks very different right now because of what happened in Boracay, where the president basically shut down a full island, the most touristy island in the Philippines, for 10 months because they didn't build the infrastructure right. And he told them, fix it, fix it, fix it, and they ignored it, and then he literally marched with the army and shut down the island for 10 months. So all the other islands went like, and what they did was starting to take care of the infrastructure. So right now here we've got a water treatment plant, and the very narrow beach doesn't exist anymore, and there's an esplanade. Underneath it is all the pipes and all that kind of stuff. So it really cleaned out that beach area because you used to get all the electricity all over the place and pipes, etc., etc. So right now this doesn't exist. There is an esplanade, and then we take the steps into the boats. Okay, but that's Sabang Beach. This area has no cars, so you won't find any scooters or anything like that. It's just a pedestrian walkway. Lots of small restaurants, lots of dive shops, etc. So it's located in Mindoro Island, which is this island, and this is Manila. We land in Manila, and then we take a van, and then we take the speedboat to Puerto Galera, which is 30 minutes, and straight to Sabang, and right into the resort, where the arrow is. Right, so as you know, Puerto Galera is characterized by very interesting topography, really, really, really vivid, healthy reefs. That is very different than Dumaguete, which has obviously more of the macro side and the slopes and sandy patches. We get a lot of reefs, a lot of nudibranchs, actually over 700 different species out of the over 2,000 species in the world. Very interesting fish behavior. Again, we do have some sandy areas there, so there is some macro and muck diving in Puerto Galera, although you do have the beautiful reef setting, which is why I like it, and obviously bucket list individuals, which we have in both resorts. This is the resort in Puerto Galera, so that's Sabang Beach. That's literally the bay where all the dive sites are. That's why we are there. It's because the resort, just like the resort in Dumaguete, we dive 5 dives a day, and they're all single tanks. And we're located 30 seconds to 5-minute boat ride. So you literally hop on a small boat, not the banca boats. We hop on a small boat, go diving, and come back after each dive. And then in between dives, obviously, camera room, coffee, cookies, tea, whatnot. The resort's built on a hillside. It was built with like an Ibizenian idea or design, but everybody just calls it a Flintstone resort because it's all in the concrete. The bed configuration is also in the concrete, so you're going to have to be very adamant about if people sleep in the same bed or not, because we can't separate beds without breaking the room. Same thing like in Dumaguete, we have a pool and the restaurant and a spa. And a bar. So the bar is called 50 Bar, and that's where, everything happens. And you'll see this in a minute in the movie because it's really funny. It's actually the area where we do the briefing before we go diving. And so when you come back, because the bar opens at 5, so when you come back, when you go night diving, there's already people drinking at the bar. And you're doing a briefing in the same area, and then you're going diving, and when you come back, literally, because you don't touch your gear, it's VIP diving, you don't wash it, you don't carry it, you don't do anything except roll back and go diving. So you just go, take a quick warm shower at the dive shop, come down, have a drink at the bar, and then shower and go to dinner. It's like the vibe of a dive resort. So we'll be hopeful. Oh yes, wow, it's just that first one. I don't know. So that's where the resort is. I'm gonna try to just down a little bit. No, it's not the one.
What are you trying to do?
Well, anyways, I'm loud enough. So that's the resort. This is the pool area. So it's built on a hillside. It's exactly the same like in Dumaguete. The operation is the same. The food's really good and varied and the same kind of concept, but they look totally different. The resorts do, right? So that's where we do the briefing. Then we go diving right in the bay. That's a floating bar right there. Yeah, you can canoe too. This is Azores. And back roll into the boat. Oh, the quality on here is, well, it's off our YouTube channel. But basically lots of colors, lots of beautiful critters set in this corals. So, one thing to keep in mind, there's also one wreck here that the dive shops put down there, so we have a deep and a wreck specialty for people who are doing advanced courses. And in February, actually this year it was through May. Get the threshers and Kima steps. So that's the resort. It's on a hillside. We've got a couple of suites right on the water, and then everything else is in kind of the back of the resort. And you can see it's all kind of molded in the concrete kind of located. This is how the food looks like. So you've got a menu. And that menu changes every meal, every day. You get a choice of an appetizer, main, and dessert. We make everything in-house. From bread to the pastry to everything is made in-house. Again, you're not gonna lose any weight, I'm really sorry. It's just not gonna happen. So, and the resorts are the same. So when you actually do a combination between the two resorts, our menus rotate on 14 days. And same thing with the boat. So you're not likely to have the same dish throughout your stay. Yeah. So one of the things that are very cool about the combination between Puerto Galera and Tubbataha, which we'll talk about in a minute, is that you can actually get a little bit of a macro fix when you're in Puerto Galera. You can spend some time looking at small stuff. Then you go to Tubbataha, and obviously that's a whole different story. So Tubbataha is like the crown jewel of the open ocean. There are two atolls located in the middle of nowhere. Literally. So that's the Sulu Sea here. This is Indonesia, Malaysia, the Sabah Island. This is Puerto Princesa, right? And then we leave from here, go to Tubbataha and come back. It's a 7-night trip. 90 nautical miles from Puerto Princesa, and it's basically, literally is in the middle of nowhere. And we see everything there from everything that migrates through the Philippines is there. Everything. So it's the place to see, obviously, pelagics, because a lot of places in the Philippines we don't see pelagics because of fishing on coastal diving, right? So on the coast of the island. This is a UNESCO heritage site that's aquatic. So that's the Tubbataha Marine Park. It's basically structured with two atolls, the North Atoll and the South Atolls, and then an adjacent reef that's called Jesse Beasley Reef, which is in the northern part of the park. So we spent 7 nights cruising along the park, and there are only 11 boats in Tubbataha. So it's very different than in Indonesia, where you have hundreds of boats in various locations. This one is quite secluded. There's only one mooring line per dive site. You're not allowed to anchor in Tubbataha. So what it results is that there's normally, by and large, one boat at a dive site. So it makes a very big difference, the boat that you're on. If it's a massive boat with like 28 people, or it's a boat with 16 people, right? Because it makes the diving experience obviously much more unique when you go to a place like that, where you're not going to see people underwater, by and large, right? Because it is very secluded. So I want to show you this movie. It's not our movie, it's the Tubbataha Marine Park movie, and it explains a little bit about the park and kind of how it looks like. It does have a sound that explains about the park, so I'm going to be quiet.
Close your eyes and imagine this. You are looking into an unfathomable, endless blue sea. It calls to you. You are irresistibly drawn to what lies beneath the surface. And then you plunge into a new world. A world so unlike the one above it, yet which looks and feels familiar. A place of extraordinary beauty, where the colors of nature astound. Where mighty currents spread life over vast distances. A world of abundance and power, fragility and tenderness, mystery and magnificence. It is one of the world's greatest marine ecosystems, and it is here, in the Philippines. Open your eyes, because this world is real. This is Tubbataha. The Samoa people call it a long reef exposed at low tide. It is a gem in the middle of the Sulu Sea, 90 nautical miles from Puerto Galera. Explore 97,000 hectares of the dramatic seascapes of Southeast Asia's only purely marine UNESCO World Heritage Site, and let it fill your senses. Two atolls on the north and south, formed over millennia, and an adjacent reef known as Jesse Beasley, make up the Tubbataha Reefs Natural Park. It sits at the apex of the Coral Triangle, global center of marine biodiversity, sheltering most of the corals found on the planet. Rare and endangered creatures, from microscopic blooms to massive whale sharks, find a haven here. Ascending to the surface, you discover that the splendor below is reflected in the beauty of the land and the sky. For Tubbataha nurtures even above water. Bird Island on the North Atoll, a globally important rookery, reverberates with the calls of tens of thousands of seabirds. In the South Atoll, a lighthouse guides mariners across the treacherous waters of the Sulu Sea, while in the North Atoll, the ranger station, home of the Marine Park Rangers who safeguard the park, is a solitary bastion of stewardship. Tubbataha sustains, carrying fish and coral larvae as far as the mainland to feed thousands of Filipinos who rely on the bounty of the sea. And Tubbataha also captivates, as the crown jewel among the Philippines' stunning dive sites. Tourism is Tubbataha's main benefactor, contributing most of the funds needed each year to manage the park. Its custodians work closely with government and the private sector to safeguard this marine heritage. In Tubbataha, every visitor is a privileged guest, and every guest must treat this kingdom with respect. There is no place for fishing, extraction, destruction, or harassment of the denizens of this sanctuary. Tubbataha is a gift that has nourished the soul for generations. Only through a shared understanding and commitment can Tubbataha remain a reality, a dream well within our reach. All you have to do is open your eyes.
It's such a good, they really did a good job explaining the park. And it does look like this. It does. There is, so a couple points to note. There is no internet, not here, but on the boat. There we go. There's no internet on the boat at all. You're completely off grid for a week. There's 16 divers on the boat. Okay, we dive in 2 groups of 8. We only get off the boat once during that week, and that's to the ranger station at low tide. So you've got that beach that gets exposed. On high tide, they're just this house on tilts. And then in the low tide, they've got a beach. So we get off the boat only once to do a bit of a walk on the beach, and that's it. So if you've got issues with being on a boat, do know that you are going to be on a boat for a week. But May is prime, which is why Debbie and Dale picked those dates, is prime season. Water temperature again is around 80. Water's pretty flat, and depending on the phases of the moon, you'll either have current or you won't. So it can get strong currents. Everything there is drift dives. So boat follows you as you dive. All the dive profiles are the same because you saw the atoll, right? So the plateau that you saw is 12 to 18 meters, so that's around 60 feet at most, and that's on high tide. And then you've got the plateau, and then the edge, and then a wall that goes down to 900 meters. It's like a lot. Yeah, it's like 2,000 feet. Over 2,000 feet. So we obviously don't go down there. So every dive starts the same. We dive, we jump on the wall, we go to the wall, we go to about 30 meters or 100 feet, right? And then we start climbing up. A lot of action happens on the edge there. And then as we finish the dive, we go into the atoll, into the plateau. So that's most of the profiles. What you're gonna see, insanely healthy corals. Really huge, massive fans. 3-meter diameter, 10 feet diameter fans. Everything is big there. So when you think about it, you think of what I said before about Puerto Galera, that's where you're gonna get your little macro fix, because when you're out in Tubbataha, you're probably not gonna be looking for nudibranchs, right? It's mostly looking out to the blue. We get lots of schools there, like you saw the marble rays, there are mantas, eagle rays, schools of barracudas, jacks, tuna, everything. We caught a very nice, as we were there on the full moon, we caught a very nice spawning aggregation of the silver tanks. We had thousands of them around. We've got schools of bump heads. It's just, it's big. It's everything big. So it's pelagic. So it's very different than what you'll see on coastal diving in the Philippines. Because we don't get a whole lot. It's still the same species. You can find a lot of the small stuff. I think most people, when they go to Tubbataha, it's not what they're looking for. It's more of the wide angle. So they're very different from each other. And we're a dive heavy operation everywhere. We dive, in the resorts, we dive 5 dives a day and on the boat. The schedule on the boat is basically we wake up, there's like this, and you're gonna notice this and you're gonna crack up, because at 5:45, there's this really soft music playing. I don't think how they ever think it could wake anyone up, because it doesn't. You kind of hear it and you go, and yeah, so 5:45 is kind of where people wake up. We've got a coffee machine and cookies and things like that, so you're grabbing coffee, and then 6:15 we do a briefing, 6:30 is the first dive. We head back to the boat, and then we do a full breakfast, okay, with eggs and all that good stuff, and then we do around 9 a.m., 8:30, technically 8:30, but realistically it's more like 9, 8:30 a.m. to 9, a second dive, come up, coffee, cookies, etc., and then do a third dive before lunch, okay? And then we take a bit of a break after lunch, and then we do a 3 p.m. dive and the night dive at 6 p.m. It's got a massive dive deck. We'll show you the boat in a minute. That's the schedule. Okay, on the boat, everything's included, including alcohol, soda, whatever. There's a big fridge. You guys help yourselves what you want. If you touch, obviously, something alcoholic, you're not diving for the rest of that day. The groupings, 2 groups of 8. So we've got the 2 skiffs, and then 1 skiff is for 8 divers and a guide, and another skiff is for 8 divers and a guide. And everything I'm saying right now is exactly the same for the 2025 trip, except there's no night dive in Tubbataha. So we do 4 a day. This is the boat, that's Atlantis Azores. She's 32 meters long, so it's 107 feet.
170 feet with your
Sorry, I work in meters, so it's a bit, and what you can see, and that makes a huge difference, is a third of the boat is a dive deck. Okay, it's a massive dive deck, and I've been on other liveaboards where you get up and you turn around to your tank and you hit someone else in the back of your tank and you kind of feel like you can't move around, but that one is super spacious. Each diver gets an area basically from me to the window, and that's your area, and then you've got 3 tanks. If anyone needs 15 liters, you just let us know in advance. It's not a problem. Now, the ladies probably don't need it, but some guys like to dive with bigger tanks. And so those are your tanks, then we fill those tanks. We've got 2 hot water showers here in the back, and we've got our own water maker on the boat, so there's no limit to the water that you can use. right? And then so half the group is on this side, and obviously the other half is on the other side. In the middle, there's a table. It's 4 stories with high pressure hoses and stuff, and so that gives people a good setup for cameras and just put your things over, you know, flashlights, etc. She was built in the late in 1980s in Louisiana for the oil rigger industry, so she's meant to handle rough seas. She's not a luxury, you know, very pretty boat, but she is steady. And I've been out on it in Tubbataha the last week of the season where it gets really wavy and really choppy, and we were pretty fine.
What is the season in Tubbataha?
It's March, April, May through the middle of June.
Okay.
Yep. So April, May are flat, and then the shoulder season is obviously a bit choppier.
We're good?
Oh yeah, you're in May. You're totally good.
The calmer time.
It's the calmer time. Super calm. Super calm. Like a mirror.
Did you just plug the channel?
Yeah. Obviously it's the ocean, you know, we can't guarantee that, but that's in general.
I mean, you can't take care of that part?
Yeah, I could promise that, and then we'll see. There's no internet out there anyway, so. It's right. But basically everything on the boat is double. We've got 2 screws, so basically 2 engines, 2 compressors, 2 water makers. Everything is redundant. And our cruising speed, which is really important, especially out in Tubbataha, is 10 knots. Okay, so we take a shorter time to get to the dive site. So we're looking at 19 nautical miles from the nearest port.
So the 2025 trip is somewhere different?
Yeah, totally different. Totally different. So she's got a freshwater jacuzzi on board. We've got an outdoor grill, so we do a barbecue night once a week on any of the trips. Yeah, sun deck in the back. And here is actually a chill out area that's covered, which is super nice. And jacuzzi is freshwater. Nice to desalinate yourselves. We've got an indoor galley, an air-conditioned galley. Some boats have a non-air-conditioned galley. Our galley is air-conditioned, and then here we've got the media center with movies. So in the evenings, if people don't pass out at around 8:30, which is what most people tend to do anyways. But if you don't, then you know there's movies and popcorn and things like that. That's the media center. We've got a server with over 1,000 movies, and then all the meals are served here. And except when we do the barbecue night, which is outdoors. So you can choose to eat outside if you want to. People like to be outside. Lots of people like to be outside. It's not a problem. Grab your plate and you go up to the upper deck. So lunch, breakfast is basically what we call family style. So we have things on the table, and then eggs are cooked per order. Lunch is family style as well. If you've got dietary requirements, just let us know ahead of time. You know, vegans, allergic to onions, don't like peppers, etc. And then dinner is plated, and it's 3 course. So appetizer, main, and dessert. You're not going to lose any weight on this trip. Sorry, I'm sorry to break that. It's a lot of food. It's a lot of food. And those are the cabins. So basically each cabin, except for one, have a lower double bed and then an upper bunk, so you can either sleep together or split.